It's up, like an arrow. Say you.
Welcome in, everybody. We're going to get started in a little bit here, but if you could mute when you're entering, that would be awesome.
Good morning. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Howard. Hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Morning.
How are you?
Hey, Liz.
Hey.
There's our friend Liz and Steve Maturo.
Yes, the chat is already going.
Hi, Alyssa. Yay. Kathleen Knight. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Oh my goodness, look at everyone.
What a good Friday morning. Kim Vorberger. Hello.
Hi, you guys.
Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I didn't start my video. I'll start my video and say hi real fast. I'm at Judy Butler's house.
Oh, hi, Judy Butler. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
All right, well, we've got some people still joining in, but I think we will get started here. Thank you all for being here. My name's Alyssa Mark. I am from Good Lines, and together with Aaron and Howard Zekiel, we are thrilled to have you here for our 4th edition of Good Lines Good Morning Inspirational Series. We know inspiration can be sort of hard to come by lately, so we're hoping to provide that for you today. Our speaker this morning is Mike Keilhauer, who is the president of our beautiful furniture line, Keilhauer. He'll be talking about his personal approach to designing furniture for the future, and he'll discuss how elements such as anticipating trends and ensuring impeccable craftsmanship influence product design from start to finish. And again, just one housekeeping note, if everyone could stay muted and type your questions in the chat, we'll answer those at the end. So without further ado, here's Mike.
Well, hi, thanks, Alyssa. Good morning. Happy to be here. Love Washington. Hello, Washington and Virginia. As a side note, personal note, my in-laws retired to the Northern Virginia, so I spent a lot of time in Virginia. And DC is one of my favorite cities because of the galleries and museums. It's absolutely fantastic, and you'll see that I love history. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I think, just a little bit of history. I'm going to sort of meander along and we'll get to all the stuff that we need to get to about design inspirations. But just some background for us. Our business started in 1981. And we were a very small company, kind of 3 brothers and a father starting a business. And we were furniture guys. I've been around furniture all my life, so that's why I'm a furniture geek, but you'll see that I've become more of a geek. The early days of our business, we had no collection, no product line. So we were a custom shop. And one of the skill sets that we evolved being a custom shop was that we would go to customers and they would tell us what they wanted and then we would make it. And one skill that we developed was that over time, we got really good at sort of anticipating their needs because it was really hard sometimes for the customer to define what exactly it was that they were looking for. So in terms of me being my other hat, president and design director, what is my cred for being a design director? Well, I trained as a business guy, and I was the only guy there who took the role on at the early stages. That's my cred. But that being said, I think I have a little bit of a sense for it. And I did a lot of work, and I did a lot of homework, and I did a lot of studying, and that's what made me into a furniture geek. And I think that in order to understand how our designs are initiated and inspired and where the ideas come from, I know for me, I had to go back and do a little bit of history. I came quickly to realize that there were kind of 3 things that defined how products were developed and how they were created in time and how some of the icons were created. And those 3 things are: 1, it's the materials that were available at the time, and materials changed design at certain times in our history. There's technology. I never thought that furniture would be driven by technology as much as it is. And in our business, in the contract business, it's really all about technology. Technology has totally shifted our product collections over the last 40 years. And then it's sort of the culture of the moment. And so I'm going to sort of do a little bit of stroll through history, and then we're going to get to the end result where we start talking about how some of the ideas come about as we write design briefs, and where do those come from, and how do we motivate and inspire our designers to create the work for us. So I'm going to start by going down the history of some classics. 1856, Michael Thonnet designed the number 14 chair. He invented the process of bentwood, steamed bentwood, and that sort of drove this design. And I can only imagine what cafes looked like before the bentwood chair came along. And when this chair was invented or created, I read that there were 50 million chairs sold in the cafes of Europe. So my goodness, the guy hit it and he nailed it, and bentwood was what it was all about. We move on to the next classic, which is 1925, Marcel Breuer, this bent tube chair. In the 20s, people were starting to experiment with bent tube, and Mies van der Rohe and the whole group of architects that was working in this genre started creating these products, which are of course classics today and which are the basis of many of our products. Moving on to 1952, in the 50s, we started getting into bent plywood. So bent plywood created a whole different look, a different form, but it was a brand new material, laying veneers on forms to create these fabulous shapes with strength. We all know Arnie Jacobsen's ant chair. I understand that they still make 1,000 of these chairs a day. So that, in my mind, is iconic. I would love to have one of those in my collection. But we'll get to ours later. Moving on to the next sort of major change and shift were the plastics of the 60s. You know, from The Graduate, the expression, invest in plastics, young man. Well, in the 60s, it was all about plastic, and plastic then became an integral part of all the furniture that came following that. So we had the bent wood, we had the bent tube, we had the plywood, we had the plastics. These are all the icons of those times, and you can see that the first ones in who are experimenting with the material created these iconic pieces. It's fantastic. Moving on to 1994, Bill Stumpf, fabulous designer, and the Aeron chair. What was really unique about this was not necessarily the form, because we were all working with mechanisms. It was a great mechanism, but they created this mesh that you could actually sit on, and they created a process of connecting the mesh so that they could connect it to the chair. The rest, I think, is a bit of aesthetic, and they hit the mark because of the tech world and the tech boom in the 90s, but it was really about the process of this mesh. So those were some of the big materials. You know, you can see how that's evolved. When I start to think about what we're in today around materials, it's really, for me, is evolved into sustainability. We're talking about recyclability, all of those wonderful things, and carbon. And the reason that I'm showing our newest chair, the Swerve chair, at the end of this history of icons, is because this is the first carbon neutral chair on the market. We have taken great pains to go through start to finish of the chair throughout the whole manufacturing, and measured our carbon. It's not that there's no carbon and we're buying offsets against the carbon, but that's the consciousness that we're starting to bring to all of our products in the current day. So that's sort of a history of materials and where we're going. I put this 1,000 chairs cover up because it sort of takes me to the next stage of my little chat here. 1981, sort of early 83 maybe, was my first neocon, and I know many in the industry measure the number of neocons they've been to. I think I'm 38 or something like that. I remember my first neocon, and I walked into, I was newly minted in the contract furniture industry, and I walked through the merchandise mart and thought to myself, oh my goodness, why am I in the furniture business? This whole building is full of manufacturers making furniture. And there are books written like this, 1,000 chairs. There have been thousands of chairs designed and developed. And this building is full of them. Why am I going to be successful in the furniture industry? Well, because I made the commitment to be in the business, so I had to figure it out. But really, what I started to learn was that product is also about the time. It's about the time that it was invented. And here's where the technology comes into play. So we're going to start with the early 80s. And what was the major technology? Well, the Selectric typewriter was really big. It was like awesome. It was a really big step forward. And the offices kind of looked like this. They were big offices with, you know, I don't see an ounce of technology in that room anywhere. That desk is crystal clear, and it, of course, it's men, and at the time it was men calling secretaries in from their Selectrics to do dictation. And thank God we've moved on from that. But that was the state of the world at that point in time. And so the kind of chair that we designed, our very first big hit, was this chair. You can see that it's very full. It's sort of a relaxed chair that you can sit in and really, you know, not have to worry about working other than being on the phone or dictating. Today, this is an incredibly popular conference chair, so it's evolved into a slightly different use, but that's what it was initially designed for. We then moved into the sort of 90s, and in the 90s, our big mover, what shook us was the laptop or the desktop. So now all of a sudden, people were working at their desks, and they then started to get all of the issues that we all have around working at desks. They needed more support. In fact, in the 90s is when the Aeron chair came, and this is what the offices looked like. Oh my goodness, we've moved away from that as well. What a history lesson. So in this environment, you really are sitting all day, and you really need to support your body. And the industry was really talking about machines that would make you more productive and improve your health. And that's really what the Aeron was all about. And we introduced the Tom chair. Tom was sort of contra Aeron. We wanted it to be friendly. We wanted it to be your friend, but it was a fully functional chair with every bell and whistle that you could possibly think of. Back height, arm movement, you know, adjustments everywhere in order to adjust to all the different sizes of bodies. And by the way, designing furniture and designing seating especially, I don't know if anyone realizes it, but it's a full contact sport. Everybody's different, every person's different, and furniture has to adapt to all of those wonderful things. It has to look nice, it has to sit well, and it has to adapt to the individual, it has to last and be comfortable. Lots of tick marks. In fact, Tom Deacon, who designed this chair for us, was a fabulous architect. And he moved from architecture to furniture because he felt that furniture was really architect in a small scale and was just as hard as architecture. But what he liked about it was that it took less time to create a chair than to build a building. So that could perhaps be why the architects are driven to it. They also want to influence the look of their buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Every one of these little chats, we could go off on a tangent for 20 minutes, but let's stay the course. After the desktop, and desktops really tied you to your desk, we had some movement. We had the laptop. So the laptop allowed a little more movement, but one of the things that it didn't, you still had to be somewhere where you could plug in. You had to take your little wires and plug into your system so that you could connect to whatever you were trying to connect to. So what ended up happening was there were a lot of sort of more conference chairs started to come up as people were able to move into different rooms with their technology, but they still had to plug in. But it was a little more of a relaxed sit. So we developed chairs like the Philo chair, which, you know, incorporated some of that mesh feel from what was happening in the 90s. And you can see this has a lot of elements. It has plastic, it has mesh, it has aluminum, all of the history of the materials that we were talking about that bring us up to this point. Moving on, the biggest change I've found in all of this was the cell phone. Wasn't necessarily the cell phone it was the fact that it was wireless. Wireless changed everything. The last 15 years, I think BlackBerry was first, and then iPhones and Samsung, but iPhone is sort of the iconic piece. And wireless, you could go anywhere and work anywhere, and all you needed was power. It changed the offices. People were starting to move around a little bit differently, but it still looked kind of officey. And the contract furniture industry was kind of, we were caught a little unawares, but we were fortunate because we had been designing for those cubicle conference room settings, and all of a sudden this thing happened. And we were fortunate that at the time we were designing a product, and we can show it. We were designing a product that was designed for airport lounges. We had our design team, EOS, go into the airport lounge and say, okay, tell us all of the things that you need in an airport lounge. They defined the areas of use where you needed to have a place to work, needed to have a place to meet, and you needed to have a place to relax, and you needed a place so you could have a little bit of privacy, so a bit of dividers. So we have all of those elements in this collection. And as it turns out, aren't we lucky that the airport lounge really became a reflection of the office today, the way all of that movement around work, meet, relax, privacy. And so the Cahoots collection became very, very popular as a result of it hitting a sweet spot in the market at that time. So where are we now? Yes, COVID, work from home. What's going to happen with this? I think that the products that have been designed in the last couple of years, the really fresh ones that are sort of a little more residential, that the contract industry has caught up to the whole residential side. If you recall, we started to creep into residential product lines because that was the home feeling. So we introduced the Untucked collection, and it was about comfort, and it was a little more residential feeling, but still really contract oriented. And I'm cognizant of the time, so I'm charging through all this. Going to get to design briefs. I'm going to tell you a few stories about how we actually talk to designers and how we, some of the design briefs and how we get product. You don't just say, sometimes we say, oh, I need a product that looks like this, give me something. But we designed a chair in the early 2000s that we were hearing from our clients that they wanted to take our fully loaded chair and take away the back height adjustments and the arm height. They wanted all the adjustments gone. And we said, of course we could do it, but why were we doing it? And we asked them, and they said, well, we're just using it in the conference room. So we went back to square one and we started asking ourselves, well, what exactly is a chair that would be perfect for the conference room? And it would have to swivel, it would have to be on casters. We wanted to do a mesh, so we created a knit mesh so we could bring color into it. We were the first, I think, with a knit mesh. And it had to have just the bare sit so you could be comfortable in your conference room. So here was the inspiration for the chair. It was a piece of wrought iron furniture that had this flexible steel bounce in it. So that's all it was. It was just this bounce. So we talked to the designer, Mark Kapka, and we said, this is the bounce. We want the mesh. Give us a chair for the conference room only with these few elements. And we got the simple chair. Really successful for us. I think it was one of the first of its kind at the time. Now, a lot of chairs are like this, simple function, not a lot of things going on as this whole market evolved. But I'm pleased to say I think we were one of the first. Another story is this one. We're going to show a picture here of a kid sitting on a bed with a computer. So I went to my designers and I'd observed that my kids were upstairs, quote, doing homework, but in fact, what they were doing was on social media with their kids, with their friends. So they were connected to their friends, but they were distant. So what I did observe was that when these kids got together in face-to-face, the biggest generation of hugging that I've ever seen. I know our generation didn't do it, but these kids are not afraid of having physical connection. that was the design brief. I said, these kids are coming into the marketplace in a few years. What's the furniture look like for that? And we created the Talk collection. It was originally called Touch, but some of our corporate people, some of our corporate clients were a little nervous about touch, so we call it Talk. But the idea is that you're really connected. We invented this angle of sitting called our 141 angle. It seems to be the perfect way to talk. And then we designed a collection around it. I'm going to give you one more since we're at 9:20. And the last, we have a design that we're just introducing right now. And this is the design brief. So we have a new division 12, which is tubular steel. And we were walking through trade shows and we said, we observed that things were getting lighter. And you know, with sustainability, it was important to be light and less. And so we said, okay, design team, here's a tubular steel company, and we want you to design something that's almost nothing. And this is the result. It's coming to you. We're going to be introducing it in about a month. This is the initial sketching of it. You can see that it's interesting. These guys are from Vienna, the EOS group. And so it has a lot of history and a lot of drawing on a lot of its origins from the Michael Thaunet chair, which we started the presentation with. Wow, what a come around here. But you can see that that's what the influence of the design is, but this is a tubular steel. And it really is almost nothing. I think this is the chair. You can see there's not a lot there. The front leg becomes the bottom rail of the back, and the back leg becomes the top rail. And outside of that, there's a seat on top of it, and it's really almost nothing. So that's a little stroll down my furniture history. 20 minutes is a real tight way to talk about that much information, but you can see that for me, it's really been quite a journey. I love furniture. I walk into a room and all I see are the furniture pieces. I turn them upside down or embarrass my family. I know that you designers who are online here with me would kill for the perfect design brief. If the client understands what they need, you get a better product. You can get to the end result better. So we work really, really hard at trying to really define what it is that we're looking for. And even though it may be very esoteric when you say almost nothing, it's really, we've already talked about the fact that it's, you know, sort of cafe seating, bent wood, bent tube, but what's the word that we needed to do to inspire them? So I gave you 3 of those that talked about how we came to the idea and the inspiration. And we try to do that with every one of our products. We've done hundreds of products over the last 40 years. Most of them are design award winners, I'm very proud to say. And I'm proud of the collection. And I think that I have had the question around, how does the line, why is it cohesive? I think it's a cohesive line. I think the thing works and it has a certain sensibility about it. And it comes down to all the products that have been introduced are products that I like. And so it's my sensibility. It's like going into a beautiful room that you have created for yourself over the years that reflects that everything, things don't have to be the same. They just have to be things you like. And it's amazing how that room then meshes into something really beautiful, which I believe our collection has meshed into. So that's my story. And I thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mike. That was awesome. We do have a couple of questions. And one of them is around the materials used to make furniture. I know we've seen a lot of, metal and wood. Are there any materials that you're seeing or combination of materials that you're anticipating being popular in the next couple of years that Keilhauer is working through?
What we're doing now is really focusing on this whole sustainability issue. So you can see we have the carbon neutral product, but it's not as though there are new materials being created. It's more about what we're struggling with, and what we're really trying to get more of is recycled content. The materials that we have to work with are fabulous materials. We just need more of the recycled content of it. And that's a market that needs to evolve. so what we're doing in the meantime, in order to make our products as recyclable as possible, once that chain of recycling comes into play, because it's not really strong in our world, is to make sure our materials are pure. So we're introducing a collection in a couple of months that is pure polypropylene shell, as opposed to a glass-filled polypropylene, because glass-filled can't be recycled, whereas a pure polypropylene can. And we're supporting that with a beautiful aluminum frame. So aluminum's a pure material and polypropylene's a pure material. So in the future, we can put those into the technical nutrient system and can recycle and reuse them. So it's more about reusability for us now.
Has Keilhauer ever looked into bamboo, or are there any positives or negatives to bamboo? We had a question about that.
We haven't. I know that it's one of those materials that is easily refreshed and grows quickly. I guess it's about market, and we haven't seen it in the furniture industry, but I think it's a great idea, and I will certainly take a look at it as we search for new materials.
And then we had another one about red list materials. Is Keilhauer trying to remove all red list materials from the furniture line?
Yes, absolutely. We are very, very close to being 100% red list free. We started working on that about 15 years ago. It's a tough process because everything goes back to the chemical companies, and our supply chain was very reticent to give us their formulas about what was in it. So that was hard work, tough slugging, but I'm pleased to say that we're very, very close. I think we may have a list of red list free products on our website. And if it's not there, it will be there shortly. And it also, a lot of times it comes down to little things, like we had a chair that was 100% red list free, except for the zipper head that was covered in something. And if something has a red list chemical in it, it's really, really low amount, but we're trying to eliminate it totally. So that's our story on red list. We're very cognizant of the sustainability story. In fact, we were, for the 7th year running, named one of the 100 greenest employers in Canada. So there's my pitch.
Awesome. We had, this is more of a comment, but something I find kind of cool. Someone was asking for, they'd love furniture that the fabric could be removed and replaced over the years. So some sort of, I don't know, I mean, obviously a slipcover exists, but is that ever something that you've considered for contract furniture?
We have. Our issue also is durability, and contract furniture is not residential furniture, and people do beat it up. They don't take the same kind of ownership. A lot of our products are sort of slip-on covers with staples in them, so they are removable, but not simply with zippers and Velcro. We haven't gone that route. That seems to fall apart more quickly in the field. So that's one of the reasons we've avoided it.
Okay, and then last one, do you think there's a perfect chair? And what would be the closest that you've seen? And you may be biased on this one, but.
Perfect chair, huh? Wow. Well, you know, I went through all those early ones. You know, when I think about it, I really think that little bentwood chair at the very beginning that Michael Thonnet did was outstanding in terms of what it did and the simplicity of it and the form of it and how it just hit the mark, and how it would have changed the culture of the time in such an enormous way. Really strikes me as a chair. If I have more time to think about it, I might go through that 1,000 chair thing. But every one of the chairs that I've seen has a certain thing that has taken product in a direction. So, as a lover of all chairs, I have no favorite.
We did have one more comment. Sorry. Are you ever consciously driving design at Keilhauer, or you talked a lot about anticipating different trends and following technology? Is there something that you guys do in more of a trailblazing type of way?
Yes, I believe we do. I believe that most of our product has a bit of trailblazing to it. You have to recall that, you know, very much like I remember reading the book, Steve Jobs said, ask your clients, why would I ask my client? They don't know what they need 2 years from now. Remember, it takes 2 or 3 years to bring a product to market. So in terms of us trailblazing, we're trying to anticipate your need as a designer and what an office might look like in 2 or 3 years from now. So, we have generally caught the trends. I'm not sure, have we created a new material like an Aeron chair? We have not. We did create the knit mesh for the simple chair. That was something we created for our industry. But I would say that trying to anticipate what our clients' needs are 2 to 3 years from now, like today, I'm trying to think of what you need 3 years from now, and be the first one there with it. So in that way, that's how we would trailblaze.
Yeah, absolutely. We had another come in: with so much work from home, will contract and residential find a sweet spot together where individuals can find or buy excellent work seating?
I think so. I think that it's happened. I think the industry has adapted really, really quickly over the last 10 months. I mean, we have a work from home task chair that's available, and we've packaged it in a box so you can ship it easily. Many of my competitors who have a residential arm have taken their contract product and moved it over. And I think that there will be that sort of blend that corporations will want their people to be comfortable at home. And I really think that there will be a mix between, I think the new work environment will be work in the environment that's most suitable for you at the moment. Although I do believe that maybe some of the real heads down work will be probably more focused at home if you can find a quiet spot. Whereas the collaborative element, which is what this screen shows, I think is going to be very, very important, even more important in the future, to maintain the culture of the organizations. I don't think businesses can maintain culture working from home 100%. You just lose something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's actually, for everyone on the call, Keilhauer has a product that's a task chair that you can order for home use. So we'll send that out too to everybody. But I think that's something that keeps coming up is, hey, I'm realizing I'm now allowed to work at home forever, or I've been working at home for a year and I need a good chair, my back hurts. So that totally is merging. We're aware of it. Keilhauer is certainly aware of it and already responding.
And just another note on that, Alyssa. Back in the 90s, when we were trying to create these unbelievable chairs for working so that someone would never have to get up and could just sit there with a perfectly adjusted chair, the reality is that that's not the best way to sit. The best way to sit, even at home, is to get up every 20 or 30 minutes and walk around. It's good for your body. So, the chairs, the way that you work is also a lot about how you work. And, people get so caught up in being on the screen that they forget to lift their head and move around. So maybe we'll just sell the idea of moving around. It's an important one.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions. We will email everybody a little recap, and this is recorded. So if you want to share this link with anyone else that may have missed it at your office, we will get that out to you, and you're welcome to do that. But thank you so much, Mike. This was really awesome, and we loved having you. We love Keilhauer. And we will be doing these hopefully every couple of weeks, guys. So stay tuned for future invites for more Good Lines. Good morning.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Mike. That was great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's Sue.
Sue?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Sue.
How's Texas?
I enjoyed it. It was great. I enjoyed seeing everybody.
You don't have your toucan coat on anymore.
Are you okay? Do you
No,
have power?
I'm over about, I just jumped in, but I have no makeup on. I'm very embarrassed. That's why I took the video off. I'm like, no, don't look at me. But yes, we got electricity last night and water we having another freeze, so we keep turning it off every day, but we're on the uphill. We're on the uphill. It's great. It's good. Good to have heat. Yay.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, Mike, I'm
Every
already
day.
getting texts. I just got 3